Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Condoland podcast. Today's guest is Val Khomenko from TSE. He's basically the head of the condominium portion of that company. And today we're going to talk about basically coming up through the trenches, starting from scratch and getting into this industry, and really what it takes to survive in this industry, which is super, super thick skin and some pepper spray. So Val, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning.
Let's get right into it. So Val, you started basically at the bottom. I started at the bottom in a sort of different capacity, but same kind of idea. Got into this having really zero idea what I was doing. Oh crap, I did say that out loud. That's okay. And both of us, I think, had a very similar experience in that we kind of worked our way up, and in that process, we had a lot of experiences and we saw a lot, and we've felt a lot, and we've got to where we are because I don't know, we got lucky, I guess, but maybe you can speak to that. What does it take for a new person coming into this thing to make it in this career?
That's a fantastic question, Eric. I think that as I look back, sometimes I get a little shiver and a chill just thinking about those times, traveling as a lowly cover admin, basically covering vacations for managers, for property administrators. As you think back on those times, you're always looking at, sometimes you try to look at the positives, but often enough, you remember the negatives, right? Somebody comes into your office and says, "Where's this?" And you have absolutely zero clue. You just got there. You maybe hopefully have a building data sheet, hopefully, but other than that, you got nothing. You just have an address and hopefully, a working phone. So that was kind of the start.
Oh man, you had a working phone?
Yes.
Whoa. You were
You
late
know,
to
that's
me.
That's right. That's right. But at the end of the day, I think as somebody that started from, as a floating admin, and I think that really is an opportunity that really pays off, right? Because you can see different communities. As you know, Eric, every community is unique, right? You can travel from Scarborough all the way to Mississauga, and every condo that you'll visit, it will be different. They'll
Every
operate
every
differently.
single one has its own flavor, 100%.
1,000% for sure. So that was kind of the start,
Yeah.
but it gradually became, it kind of piqued my interest, right? At first, I needed a job, right? I think when you enter
Good.
this
It's a good reason
career,
to get into a field. I need a
right, it's a
job.
good reason.
I
And
want a
then what
car.
happens is usually you kind of like, okay, I'll try it out. And interestingly enough, and I think that we're going to talk about this a little bit later, is the mentorship aspect. Right. So I had somebody, a regional manager at the time, told me that this career was for life. Right. There's job security. Right. They're always going to be building buildings, building condos,
Yeah.
and this job is for life. At first, I was like, is he high? Because the market at the time was kind of like, not the greatest, but it was more or less stable.
What year did you get into this? What
So
did you
this
start?
was around 2016.
Okay, right, right.
Right. So
Well, yeah, it
then
was it was starting to pick up then, but it hadn't really
he hadn't really
found bananas yet.
settled fully, right? Like it
Yeah,
wasn't roaring economy at the
yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and then I tried it, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of neat, And then they put me in a building downtown, and this is one of those buildings where the famous story of three or serial board members
Oh yeah.
taking over condos downtown without even owning a place.
Oh, so you had that board. Okay.
I had that board that had those I
Yeah.
think one or two of those directors
Right.
that were eventually ended up on CBC and other
Yeah, yeah.
periodicals.
So I
And
remember just to get back to what you said before about starting off in the learning curve. Like I remember sitting in the management office in my first building, and it was probably my fourth or fifth month, and just every day being completely overwhelmed by having new things I have no idea how to handle. And I look back now and I'm like, having been in this, I'm now almost 15, 14 years into this. Almost everything that came to me would have been pretty simple at this level to take care of. I would have brushed it off. I would have known how to deal with it. But when you're just starting off, it's really challenging because you have no idea. And the amount of stuff you need to know to do this job well is incredible. I've mentioned this in I think previous podcasts, so my apologies to anyone listening that's hearing me say things over and over, but you've got to be basically an engineer, a lawyer, a therapist, a mom. You got to be all these things kind of in one to do this job well. And you have to be pretty good at all of them. You don't need to be the lawyer or the engineer, but you need to know enough to answer basic questions and know when you have to go to those people. And that's a lot to know for somebody who's just trying out a new job. I remember being in your situation where that learning curve just felt completely overwhelming for a really long period of time. But anyways, back to your story. Sorry about that. What was it like having your first building basically be that that kind of mess?
So interestingly enough, I was still smoking back then. All right. And so the same regional manager that told me to stick around. So we went for a smoke, and we probably chain smoked like 3 cigarettes at the same time. Like we were just puffing it out. It was crazy. The first AGM that happened at that building, it was, I mean, nothing I'd ever seen before.
Right.
They had to engage the police. Like it was just absolutely
I've
crazy.
been through one of those and it's crazy. It's completely insane.
Right? As somebody new coming in, you're just thinking, what the hell did I just get myself into? Right? And then you're saying to yourself, okay, do I want to be up in front and center? And at that point, I realized I actually really do, because
Yeah.
yes, this was scary, but at the same time, this was exciting. I felt like, okay, if I can be a part of this, right, and I can go past it and move forward, I can beat anything. Like I can develop such a thick skin moving forward that nothing's going to touch me. I'll be perfectly fine.
And there's something kind of exciting and fun about it. Like it's a really difficult job. And if it's not your type of personality, which I think, how do you describe the personality type? Insane. But if that's not you, you're not going to like this. But getting up in front of a crowd of angry people who, start the meeting angry at you for whatever reason, or angry at the board or management, and being able to turn that crowd around, hopefully without the police, it's it's different. It's something you don't see in a day-to-day, setting. You don't, if you're working at a bank, maybe you do. I don't think you see this working in most government offices or banks or large institutions. We're working in settings with no HR departments, right? Maybe your company has one, but the condo doesn't. So you're really sort of at a strange place where you're a professional, but you're not in a professional setting necessarily. You're dealing with volunteer board members. Anything can happen and often does. And it keeps the job very exciting, at least in my opinion.
Oh, 1000%. I think at the end of the day also is the when I was starting out, I realized that if I'm going to succeed in this, I have to show up, right? I have to show up, whether it's for some people, it could be a small problem, but for other people, it could be the largest problem that they'll ever have, right? And if they see a manager showing up, even if it's just a floating admin, but they see somebody from the management office showing up and actually looking into their problem,
Yeah.
it makes them feel that they're being heard, right? It makes them feel that somebody's actually taking care of them. And from the very beginning, from the very get-go, that was my motto: show up for the problem and see if we can fix it, right? Let's figure it out how we can help this person. And if we can't, at least we give it our honest and best effort.
I think that's great advice for people starting in the industry that if you're going to do this job, it's hands-on. This is not the kind of job where you sit at the desk and things happen around you. It's the type of job where you need to be in the thick of it because otherwise you're not going to succeed at this. You're missing most of what's going on. So yeah, show up. Absolutely. You got to flood 3 a.m, elevators down, whatever the case is. If it's serious enough, you be there. And if you're not willing to do that, this job may not be right for you. It's just that kind of career, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So how do we go to the next level from the floating property administrator to actually becoming a manager, right? And I think from my story that I can share, and that is honestly the grit, really just being a driving force, right? Really kind of showing up for your residents, showing up for your board, showing up for your management company, very important as well.
Yep.
Right? Because the management company is not going to promote you. Not, it's not the board, it's not the condo corporation, it's your management company that's going to promote you, right?
I can
So
tell you
you should,
100% agree. Like I have a slate of excellent managers, but that hasn't always been the case. I've had some people in the past, all of whom have left the industry. And yeah, I'm not going to promote them if I'm the one showing up in the middle of the night to deal with their flood, or if I'm the one that has to rewrite their management report, or if they can't operate independently. Now, obviously, there's a grace period as you're learning. Of course, there's a learning
Yeah.
curve. Mentorship is hugely important. But if you get into it and you've been in it long enough and you don't show promise that you can sort of operate semi-independently, then no, it's going to be very difficult to get that promotion. You have to be willing to put the work in and go the extra mile, or else your management company may not say, hey, this is someone I want to promote.
Absolutely. And I got promoted within 3 months. So I was only floating a bit for a few months. And luckily enough that I got, and I think luck is also is very crucial
Luck is a
to.
huge piece of it, but I think having that grit is a bigger piece because there's going to be lucky opportunities that come and go, right? You might have some manager goes on a mat leave and there's an opening, but if you're not the person that's shown that you can fill that spot, it's going to go to someone else. It's competitive, right? And you know, like you said, you're not going to get that promotion if you're not showing that you can do something. And 3 months is great because, obviously your company saw something in you and said, yeah, let's give this guy a chance. Management companies are always looking to give people chances. There's a shortage in the industry. We want more senior people, but
Yeah,
you got to be able to put in the work and take the punches. As I think you're.
absolutely. And I didn't know that my first punch was going to be a 500 unit building, right? Right. And then, I kind of go in there and my first, interestingly enough, and I think it's just how it goes in this industry with almost everything. It was basically a 500 unit building. My first week, I had 2 floods, fire alarms. I mean, anything you can think of, it got
Yeah.
thrown into a first week.
Yeah. And
And
how did that go for you? That, like, you're brand new,
oh,
you're in a building, you have a flood, and you're in panic, I assume. What do you give some advice to someone in your situation in that moment right there?
run? I'm kidding.
Run is good. I like run. After you've run and you've come back, what do you do?
So once you finish that run, because the first is fear that kicks in, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of got to take a step back and really think things through, right? Often enough, people call their regionals, people call the whoever is above them, director and whatnot, right? But I figured, you know what, I'm gonna try it on my own, see how well I do. Honestly, when I look back at that time, I probably could have done my first flood a little bit differently, but at least the essence of it, I started doing correctly, right? And
At
that's
some point,
communication.
at some point in the first 3 or 4 hours, you did turn the water off, and that was a good step.
Yes, I think that was the case, but and then I made sure that the security does the announcement because the water
Yeah.
was actually part of the whole fire alarm situation as well. So, but as I look back, I obviously could have done things a little bit more efficiently now that I know all these things since, being a decade in the industry. It really it show it's always great to look back. I think we should be looking back at how we did things before. And truthfully, things that the managers have to do today is so much different than they had to do 15 years or even 10 years ago,
Yeah.
right? The industry had changed entirely. I can't really say whether it's for the better or for worse. We can probably contemplate that towards the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
But I think the first flood was really an inspirational experience. I think that the dealing with angry residents, dealing with repairs, subsequent repairs, and dealing with the whole remediation aspect of it was challenging. And you have to accept that challenge, right? You have
Well, not
you have
everyone.
nowhere else to turn.
Not everyone's career puts them in a situation where you're managing a crisis unexpectedly. And that's our day to day in this industry. Like you may wake up at 2 a.m. with a phone call that you've got a fire or a flood, and you're in crisis mode right there, right then, and you're the person that's handling it. And a lot of jobs, like I said before, a lot of jobs don't really have that aspect. There's man-made crises, there's gossip in the office, there's deadlines, but not like this, where you're standing, in a lobby after you've driven overnight for an hour at night to get to some site or whatever it is. And you got water pouring down around you, and you've got the fire department on the left and the plumbers on the right, and you're the guy in the middle trying to sort of coordinate and manage this. And it's an adrenaline rush, but it's also really takes a type of personality to be able to do that and be okay with that.
Absolutely. I still remember at 3 o'clock in the morning, January 2nd, you get a call. Luckily, thank God. And I hope other companies are trying this as well. Luckily, I live 10 minutes away,
Yeah.
20-minute walk from the property, right?
Yeah.
So I hopped in an Uber real quick. Thank you to that Uber driver that was still there. Uh, Went to the property, went through it. It was a 12-story flood, right? At 3 o'clock in the morning on January
Yeah.
2nd. You're still hung over from the,
Yep. Yep.
from the New Year's
At
party.
least it wasn't January 1st. So
That's right. That's right. But
usually it happens on the stat. That's Murphy's Law.
no, that is. And at the end of the day, if I didn't show up and if I just kind of delegated that, right, I don't think I would have had the same success in dealing with everybody that was affected.
No, I don't think you'd
Right?
be running TSE if that was your personality type. I just don't think that your trajectory would have been the same. Like I said, if you're coming into this industry and your mentality is that this is an office job and you're going to delegate and you have security to deal with things like that, you're not going to go very far in this. You really need that hands-on approach. I'll give you a quick story. My very first it was my third day. So no, we started on a Friday at a site, and it was a disaster. The old management had kicked, or the management had kicked out. Sorry, the board had kicked out the management without notice, so we were taking over. The office is a mess. Invoices are missing. The whole thing. That was bad enough. We're trying to figure out what to just to get organized. That was on the Friday. On the Sunday, the entire basement, it was a one-level basement, huge area, was under 8 inches of mud. And we're like, what? And what had happened is a fire line coming in from the city to the building had burst. It was under such high pressure that it had basically lifted the building up and cracked the foundation, and earth and mud had rushed in. So our entire pool area, locker rooms, change rooms were just destroyed. That was I guess, work day two, third day of being on the job. My third day in the industry, basically. And same idea as you. You're just getting into it and you have a 12-story flood. And what the hell do you do? Like, I don't know that there is a fire pipe under there, let alone get an excavator to start digging it up, right? But that's stuff that happens to people in this industry. That's the nature of it. Things break, right?
I can only think of what went through your head at the time. I
It,
mean,
there's very little going through my head at all times, just to put that out there. There's not a very busy place up here, but
yeah.
fear, a lot of fear, and just a run. Run was going through my head.
The one thing that I did mention that I think I want to walk back is that when I decided to take the flood on, in retrospect, one of the things that I should have done is I should have called the regional manager and advised them that this is what I want to do. Said, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I've done so far. What do you think? Right? Just to kind of keep them also in the loop. It's always great to keep people above you in the loop because, they could get a call from your directors and just to check in to see, how the flood's doing and everything else. And if that regional or director doesn't have a single clue,
Yeah.
well, we might have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So in retrospect, that's what I should have done. And I think my advice to the listeners would be certainly, if in times of crisis, feel free to share. I think that's very important.
There's a balance. You need to hit a balance because in a case like a flood, no senior manager or company owner or whoever it is gonna bat an eye if you call and say, "Hey, I've got this major crisis. I'm gonna do this about it." Just checking in with you. That's great. Not calling, I think, is probably, you got to be real confident to not call, which is, it's kind of cool that you did that. But if you had made a mess of it, that would have been a disaster for your career,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
thankfully you have a good head on your shoulders. You did it. You did a good job. You also want to balance that with over engaging your senior manager. Like, obviously in the first few, I would say even years, bother us away. Like, ask whatever you need to ask because that learning curve is so steep. But if you're really in the job, the expectation is eventually you're going to be able to handle things. And if, you got to build up that confidence that you can do it and you can handle it well. And so it really is a balance. Like, you don't want to bother your senior managers constantly, but while you're learning, you kind of have to, and that's okay. It's not bothering us at that point. So I agree with you. You probably should have called your regional manager, but it's kind of cool that you didn't. And it's kind of cool that you were able to handle that, from being your first building after being a floater. That's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, once we get to the manager level, how does somebody progress into somebody like you and I? Well, I think it's a combination of different aspects, and luck is number one. Number two is we already talked about grit. We talked about showing up, but I think it's also doing a little bit more than just extra mile. You got to be, for the lack of a better word, public facing, right? I think for the future leaders that I would be looking for in this industry is they got to do some volunteering. They got to contribute, give back to the industry that kind of brung them, right? If it takes an article, if it takes, one of those publications where you want to share that knowledge, share that experience,
Yep.
right? So people notice and people see who you are. A lot of employers look for that, right? They see, and interestingly enough, I did a postpartum of when I got hired at TSE, and the first question I asked was, what were the things that you guys were looking for when you were, hiring for a director? They looked at my profile and they said, look, you've been participating in all these industry events, you've been contributing, you've been, on the board and committees and whatnot. And that really stands out. Something that stands out, something that's unique, right? It could be a speaking engagement, it could be, volunteer at a hospital, that kind of thing, right? So at least there's other activities that you're doing besides just being in the office. People look for that, right? People look for
100%.
that
Yeah.
leadership, right?
I would
So
say when I look at hundreds of resumes a month, sometimes more, because we're always hiring, and when you put a job out, you get a lot of resumes. If anyone's been in this situation, anyone and everyone's going to apply to your job posting, whether they read it or not. So you're going to get a lot of that, and once you weed away the junk, you're left with a pile, still a pretty big pile of plausible candidates. And if you see a candidate that has published articles on their resume and a list of, two or three published articles, boy, does that stand out. Absolutely. Like that's something that nobody else has. Or I did a seminar at the condo conference or whatever. And to get to the point where you're doing a seminar at the condo conference, you got to kind of start at let's publish some articles. I can say publishing an article in one of the several condo magazines is not difficult. I did it, I think I was 2 years into the job, and I just reached out to Condo Media. Was it Condo Business? And I'm
mhm.
like, hey, do you guys want an author? And they're like, yeah, we're always looking for authors. Absolutely. Like we're dying to have people to write for us. And I'm a decent writer. I'm not great, but I'm decent. And I think I published 4 or 5 articles for them. And it wasn't hard to do. It took a day, let's say, for each one, editing, coming up with the idea, whatever. But that stands out. Like to your point, somebody who shows that above and beyond, who's really going the extra mile, who shows that they care about the industry, they want to improve not just their own life, but the collective. I think that's great. Like if you can do that, that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And that shows commitment as well, right? Not just to the employer, but also that shows commitment to the industry, right? And that shows that you're locked in.
Absolutely.
I think that I realized that, I mean, I had offers that to go into the commercial property management. I'm like, honestly, I love the residential, and I can't believe I'm going to say this live on air, is I love doing residential condominiums,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how many people can say that?
Well,
Not
listen,
many.
like I said, no 2 days are the same, and you have to have a personality type that you get bored easily. Because if you're the type of person that gets bored easily, this is a great job because it's never ever boring. You're always doing something different. 14 years in this, and no 2 days have been the same for me. They're all different, and there's always some surprise or something that even now I'm like, I don't know how to handle that. I better really like think about this, talk to a lawyer, whatever the case is. Um, Sorry, I'm trampling on your thought here, but it's a great point. And
No, absolutely. I think you just hit something that's very also important is that if you don't know that there is something that's happening and you can't even as a director, if you don't know, but we've got a great thing going, and that's networking, right? Some of the things that we've done, for example, at ACMO and other industry events, networking, right? You could always come up to somebody and say, listen, I got this crazy case. I don't know what to do with it. Have you dealt with something like this before?
absolutely.
And 1000%, nobody's even going to charge you for it, but they'll guide you because I'm telling you, somebody has gone through something like this before, at least
most
once.
most of the people in the industry, if you start talking to them, they want to share their stories. They want to, like, obviously confidentiality, you change a name or a place or whatever, but they want to
Yeah.
share their stories. And like I remember it's daunting going to an ACMO networking event when you don't know anyone, you're new in the industry. But do it, because if you do it and you show up and you just strike a conversation at whatever table you end up sitting at with somebody who's been in for longer than you, they'll start talking back. No one's going to ignore you and treat you like, like nobody. Like they want to share their stories, they want to talk to you. And if you get into that sort of networking space, opportunities will open up. And again, it's not just because you're making connections in this, it's that you're showing the people that are talking to you that you care enough to be here, right? And you're putting in that extra mile. You're going the extra mile to be here and to actually make an effort.
Absolutely. It's interesting enough that you brought up a point of coming up to people. I still remember my one of the few luncheons that we went to, and this person from a cleaning company, he was walking around and nobody gave him a time of day, right? But this guy had grit. He like literally just went through every single person and everybody just kind of brushed him off. And then there was one, I can't remember who it was from which company, but there was one manager that gave him the time of day. The guy lit up. It was amazing to see, right? He made such an effort to approach,
Yeah.
and try to sell and try to get some sort of a lead. But when he actually succeeded to get somebody to listen to him for like, 10, 15 minutes, wow, what a change. And
Yeah.
you can see that from new people coming in into some of the networking events, they lit up. You see that they all dress up, they're all happy. Like it's great to see it. So networking is extremely important, especially in this industry if you want to survive.
Yeah, and like I said, it is daunting sometimes going to an event where you don't know anyone. I remember I went to my first ACMO event. No one really knows this, but I didn't know what to wear because I'm bad at dressing up, and my wife takes care of that for me. But I figured like, okay, a golf shirt and some whatever dark pants. Like I didn't think, and I show up and everyone's in like a full out suit, and I walk in and I'm like, oh crap, and I don't know anyone. So like, not only do I not know anyone, but I look like an idiot going in. And I remember just like I spent maybe 20 minutes, and I turned tail and I ran, and I went to the next one because I'm like, I'm not giving up, and I dressed the part and a little more success. It was still difficult. It was still super awkward. I still spent, I don't know, half the time pretending I was on my phone in the corner. Fine, do what you got to do. But eventually you just start chipping away, right? And you start making a contact here or there, some face you recognize that you can go up to and say hi, whatever the case is. And you do it enough, even though it's awkward and you got to pretend to be on your phone, whatever the case, it starts to work. And when it starts to work, opportunities open up for you because you're showing people that you've gone and this means enough for you to show up. You're not someone that, is just looking out for themselves. You want to contribute. You want to bring, you want to be a part of this thing, right? Part of this career in this industry. And that's huge. That's people we look for when we hire.
Absolutely. And I think that the more people that are that are looking to join and will be hopefully listening to this podcast, I think the one thing that we can certainly tell to people is that, look, if you want to join, you better prepare to go the distance. You have to be prepared to go the distance, right?
Yeah, and you got to be uncomfortable sometimes. You just have to.
That's it.
Like when you're standing in a lobby that's pissing water out the ceiling and you're not sure what to do and you're trying to reach your regional manager while he's sleeping and he's pissed that you woke him up, or you're at a networking event where you're dressed like an idiot and you don't know who to talk to. These are situations you're going to have to put yourself in. But that's the people that can do that are the people that make it in this industry because you have to have that thick skin and you've got to have that grit. And like, and for anyone who's been in this thing for long enough, you know that people can be pretty nasty. Homeowners can be nasty, board members can be nasty. It just comes with the territory, right? You got to have that thick skin and you can't let that bother you. You got to be able to go home and go to sleep at night despite that. But
Absolutely.
those are the things that show that you're that type of person, right? It's reaching out to a magazine and saying, I want to write for you, right? It's just having that, I don't know what the word is, but that charisma.
Absolutely. It's how many punches you can take and keep moving forward, right?
Exactly. There's a
That
lot of punches that come at you in this industry. It's sort of a
for sure.
slugfest, but
For sure, for sure.
yeah. Well, we're at 30 minutes. I would love to keep going because it's a great conversation, but I don't know. Well, we could, but I'm going to cap it here, and we can always do a round two if it comes down to it because it's a great topic, and I don't think I've ever had that discussion about like what it really takes to survive in this industry because a lot of people don't. A lot of people leave the industry. So, Val, thanks so much for suggesting this topic. Again, this grit. Val came to me. He's like, I want to do this topic. I didn't ask him, so it's fantastic. I had a great time. Do you have any closing stories or closing words you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me and thanks for, having the conversation. I think it's a very important one. And especially as we're navigating the shortage in the industry, we want people to stay. But I also want people to know that this industry is not sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be times that you're going to be crying. There's going to be times that you're going to be ready to quit, probably once a month. But it's you gotta go through it. And we just want people to know that there are resources there for you. There's support there for you, right? Feel free to reach out to anybody that you can think of. I had somebody that reached out to me on LinkedIn that somebody wants to get into the industry. They took their, CMREO first course.
Yeah.
They want to start. And I'm like, so I scheduled a course, sorry, not the course. I scheduled a call with them for half an hour, random person on LinkedIn, just to kind of give them that little nudge into the industry, right? And they're like, wow, somebody at my level decided to spend half an hour. Actually, we had a call for an hour of their time after 5 o'clock to talk about the industry, right? Passion, grit, and keep moving forward.
But the people that made it in the industry are those types of people. It's, anyone in this industry who's survived this long are the type of people they'll bend over backwards for you. They'll do whatever you want. But to get to that point, you need a special type of personality. And I think you said it well. I don't even need to expand on this. It's a great way to kind of end it. So if you're looking to get into this industry and you're applying for jobs, number one, you got to be special. You got to be ambitious, and you've got to go the extra mile. You got to have grit, thick skin. But if you do all that, and if you have all that and you make it, it's a great job. It's interesting. It's exciting. Every day is different. You've got to use your brain. This is not a job where you sit there every day, playing solitaire on your computer. You're always busy and doing something. And there's something nice about that, right? It's nice about not getting bored at your career and not feeling like I'm at a dead end kind of a job. Because if you're good, there is always upward movement in this industry. There's a shortage of managers right now. The good people are going to move up fast, and the compensation's there. Like I said, the job is fun, and you can always keep going if you're good.
Absolutely. I wouldn't cheat it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Thanks so much.